a turn. He's talking about being undecided about his future. Retirement is on the table. He added that there are things going on in his personal life that are currently taking precedence over anything related to football. Specifically as regards the Steelers, here's part of what he said.
This entire time, I haven't felt like I owed anybody some sort of decision at any point. And I've been upfront with them and said, listen, if you need to move on, if you need to do something, by all means, like nothing but love and respect. But there's been no deadline, and yeah, I've talked to Mike T many times.
If you were to play again, does it feel like it would probably be for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Well, again, I'm going back to it, but I am trying to be open to everything and not specifically attached to anything when it comes to this decision. I'm not holding anybody hostage. I really want to emphasize that.
So he said so many things. Yeah. Those were the most germane as regards his football future, and that felt like the right place to start the conversation. Here's what I would say, and I'm just going to give all of you guys the floor. He said that he has been upfront with everybody. He doesn't owe the Steelers or anyone else anything. And I actually think that's true.
Sure.
If he has been upfront with them and said, look, I really don't know what I'm going to do, then he's not in the wrong for not telling them that he's made a decision yet if he hasn't. However, if I'm the Steelers watching that yesterday, unless there's some conversation going on that I'm not privy to, that's it. I'm moving on. I got to find another option. The train is moving and he's not ready to get on it. And that would have, this is not necessarily a criticism of what he said. It is more I got to make sure that I'm ready for my future. He doesn't have, there is no indication that he is anywhere near being ready to be a part of it or that is going to happen at any time in the future. If I'm the Steelers, I move on immediately.
I agree with you, and I don't get the sense that the Steelers are like desperately waiting for a decision here. I think they would like one, but they have other options. They do have Mason Rudolph. Everybody laughs, but they like Mason Rudolph. They brought him back. He helped get them to the playoffs 2 years ago. They have the 21st pick in the draft. There are other possibilities for player acquisition over the coming months. There are still a couple of free agents out there. Depending on how the draft goes, could a backup quarterback somewhere become available, a veteran backup like a Jameis Winston or a Joe Flacco? Could you trade for Kirk Cousins? So I don't think the Steelers have put everything in the Aaron Rodgers basket, which is a good thing because obviously he doesn't seem to know if he wants to play at all. And quite frankly, wasn't a very good player last year. So I'm not sure how much better he makes them anyway.
This is an all-in strategy for the draft. You're sitting there at 21. You have Mason Rudolph. I've been there before. In fact, I think we went to the championship game, beat some Jason McCourty teams. And you have to go get a quarterback, Greeny. Like, you are all in. So
at 21, are you moving up?
You're moving up, and you're not negotiating. You're paying the bill. Let me be clear. When we were sitting there at 17 in 2009, and we wanted either Matt Stafford or one, which was going to be a heavy lift because we knew Detroit wanted him, or more likely to get up to 5 with the Browns, we were going to do whatever it took. Extra picks, extra players. We wound up trading 2 picks and 3 players. But if I'm Omar Khan, the GM of the Steelers, Greeny, and Mike Tomlin, I heard that, and like you said, the train moved on. We have Mason Rudolph, very serviceable bridge quarterback. We have to get a quarterback, and maybe we could be a little patient and get lucky, and maybe we like Jackson Dart as well. But to me, we are all in on the draft now.
And if you're a player on the Steelers and you're sitting there watching ESPN yesterday and there's Aaron talking to McAfee and saying those things, what is your reaction?
Oh, it's time to move on. If I'm a player in that locker room, I want a guy that wants to be here. And Mike Tomlin always says it. We want volunteers, not hostages. You said that this morning. So you want a guy that wants to be there when off-season workout starts, that's going to be in this locker room, that's going to be throwing to DK Metcalf and George Pickens and starting to develop those relationships that is going to build that bond that's going to last you throughout the season. That's the player perspective. On the other side of it, I look at it for Omar Khan, the general manager of the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're in a situation right now where you're coming out of some bad relationships where for the Pittsburgh Steelers, that quarterback position has been an issue. And right now you're trying to court somebody who's showing you signs of life, going out there throwing with DK Metcalf, having plenty of conversations with Mike Tomlin, but at the same time telling you, you know what, I'm not ready for anything long-term. I'm afraid of commitment, but you're still lingering there because there is some hope and some signs of life. So I don't don't think you can just move on and say, hey, to hell with Aaron Rodgers, because you don't have anything to move on to. You can hope on the draft, but you don't know how exactly that's going to go.
Well, to his point, that you just get aggressive and you make sure it happens in the draft one way or another. And I like your idea. There are veterans out there that just, listen, let's just juxtapose this to what happened 2 years ago. Obviously, I remember it like it was yesterday when Rodgers decided he wanted to come to the Jets.
Yeah.
That happened in March. I remember the date because I was having a heart procedure the following week. So, I mean, I'll always remember exactly when it was. He goes on McAfee. I want to play. I want to be on the Jets. The Jets made the move for him. He was there immediately. He showed up. He was in New York. He was at Knick games, and he was at this, and he was that. He was at practice. He was all in. Yeah. Say what you will about his time in New York. It didn't go the way anyone would have wanted it to, obviously. But he was all in. More, at a much earlier date on the calendar than this is. Mike, if I'm Pittsburgh, like this is too late. April 18th or whatever today is too late for this conversation.
100%. And again, you go back to, can this guy be a battlefield commander for 17 games in the rigors of the NFL? You have to be all in, going back to, like you said, to March. So to me, Greeny, we have to pivot quickly. And one of the things I was thinking about, like, would they have kept Russell Wilson if they had saw that interview 6 weeks ago?
Yeah, or Justin Fields. Or, I mean,
what if he continues to tell you, like, there's no timeline to my decision, I don't know what I want to do?
But he's telling you, like, J-Mac, he's telling you, because to Green's point, if he wanted to be there, we would know that by now. And that's why, to me, like, just to move this forward, guys, 6 days from today in Green Bay, when you're there, Greeny, they have to get a quarterback. You can't spend $30 million a year on DK Metcalf, give up a second-round pick, and not address your quarterback position.
There was one other thing there were a lot of things in the interview that got a lot of attention yesterday. I think the one that I saw the most, and maybe that's just the way these algorithms work, because it was about the Jets, is he talked about his exit from the Jets and how unhappy he was with the way that was handled.
And he said, we're going a different direction at quarterback. And I said, and I was kind of shocked. Now, not shocked because I didn't think that was a possibility. Listen, of course, they want to move on, that's totally fine. But shocked because I just flew across country. You could have told me this on the phone. If we weren't even going to have a conversation, and this is verbatim exactly how it happened. So I said, huh? And he goes, we just want to know how you want it released, the messaging. And I said, verbatim, I don't give a about the message. What I thought was going to be a couple-hour meeting turned into like a 15-minute meeting, and I walked out of there.
This is the part that bothers me the most if I'm the Steelers. Because, like, if I'm bringing in Aaron Rodgers at his age, coming off the year he just had, hasn't been a very good player in the last 3 years, really. What happens if it goes badly and I have to bench him? Like, is he going to go out and rip me, Mike Tomlin, for doing it wrong? Like, that to me is the part. Because, look, the whole interview, as is every interview he does, is entirely about him. And it's, it's me, woe is me, poor me, et cetera. And that's a red flag. It's a number of red flags. But to me, like, that whole thing of, like, you have to be careful to show him whatever level of respect he feels he's entitled to, or else this is what you're going to get. Like, you're Aaron Glenn trying to coach the Jets or establish yourself, and now he's out here ripping you on his way out the door. That's the part that would bother me the most if I'm the Steelers.
So what I wondered when I saw that is, I don't know what the etiquette is on this. He lives in Malibu. The Jets are in New Jersey. That is a long way away. He basically said, why would you make me fly all the way across the country to have a conversation we could have just as easily had on the phone if your mind was made up and it was just that simple? I don't know what the etiquette is in a situation like that. I'm looking at you.
Yeah, so look, I've been on both ends of these conversations for a long time. They're never easy. They never go, like, they're hard. And look, and someone said in our meeting this morning.
Well, J-Mac said it.
Yeah,
I'd let him say it. What is it you said?
Don't fly me across the country to tell me that you're moving on. We could have done that on the phone. I don't need to come there and have a face-to-face conversation or talk for hours if the decision is already made.
But if he had called him on the phone, then what would have happened?
He probably would have said, why couldn't we have that meeting face-to-face?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't have the courage to meet with me face-to-face. Right. It would have been his angle. There's always a way. There was no winning for this with the Jets.
Well, and what I saw, look, Aaron Rodgers, we know he's an all-time great, but he's also easily aggrieved. And I think what we saw in that interview was human nature, which is, I'm an all-time great, I'm going into the Hall of Fame, and somebody doesn't want me, especially an organization for 2 years gave him everything. So
everything.
I am sure that stung him. Look, like I said, they never go easy, and I've done it face-to-face, over the phone. It's just one of those situations. It's unavoidable. Someone's not going to feel good.
Alan's a talk show host in New York. How did this play yesterday, as far as specifically the Jets part of it?
I think Jets fans were so confused, right? Because the emotions run wild. You have Artie and Canarsie. Artie, you're on the air, and this is now back in January. Get this guy off my team. I've had enough of this Rodgers guy. Right? Now it's April. Artie and Canarsie, what do you got? How do they treat this guy like this? He's a Hall of Famer. What do you got? Justin Fields. Like, they don't know how to feel because you never can trust the Jets to do the right thing, so you're not quite sure what side to take on this.
For what it's worth, and this was sent to me by 1 million people yesterday, you can put up the full screen, Cindy. Aaron Rodgers himself once tweeted, and it's a long time ago, this was in 2013, he tweeted, "Meeting in person is greater than phone calls always." Now,
yes.
That was not yesterday, to be clear. That was 12 years ago. He certainly can have changed his mind. But I just had like half the world sending me that yesterday, so I just felt a need.
He misremembered.
He did that.
He misremembered.
Look, it just is what it is.
Is there a statute of limitations on tweets?
Yes, there is. I don't hold him responsible for having tweeted. Look, I don't know. That part of it, at the end of the day, if he's mad about it, he can be mad. It doesn't really matter. The Jets made the decision to move on, and they got the quarterback that at this point, I think the Steelers should wish they still had. I think that's, at the end of the day, if I'm watching that yesterday, the reaction I have is I cannot believe the Steelers let Justin Fields, who at least has some possibility of giving you a good season, walk out the door for a player who just does not seem like he wants to play.
Yeah, he had good relationships in the building. They were encouraged by what they saw those first 6 games. Like, it would have made sense to bring him back. But
okay. There's been a little tension on the set today. We got J-Mac going at it with Tannenbaum over here. And earlier this morning, Alan really took offense when J-Mac said this.
Uh-oh.
I mean, I used to be able to dunk. I'm now 30.
Rồi, mắc tiếp.